Thomas Jefferson, the great founding father of the United States, iconically wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." But where precisely do these rights reside? And why are they the essential basis for any form of constitutional republic? Are we in danger of losing them today? A little CTMU meta-logic is required to answer these questions. To some extent, God-given rights is a misnomer, because rights must be coupled with responsibilities. In the words of Pope John Paul II, freedom consists not in doing what we like, but in having the right to do what we ought. Rights and duties are coupled as potentialization and actualization in the CTMU metaformal system. The freedom to do what you please, and the training, discipline, and understanding to do what is right. You need to align your own intentionality with that of God, and that requires great discipline, understanding, and knowledge. As a secondary image / teller of God, you have been given the ability to generate new axioms through something called a telon in the CTMU, which is a quantum of your intentionality. A secondary teller, like human beings, is a structurally complex syntactic operator who actually bears the important metaphysical task to shape the syntax, the rules and structure of reality for good and evil and through your mind and will, which is precisely what you are doing at all times. We can make this the best of all possible worlds through our own volition. You are not just an observer, but an observer participant in reality, literally generating new axioms for its existence and evolution. Our ethical duties are an expression of the CTMU distributed solipsism. We each have our own interface with reality as a secondary teller with private conscious experience, and somehow God harmonizes and integrates all of these perspectives and wills and experience. Because we're secondary images of God, everyone else could be considered our other selves. We are all related in profound and intrinsic ways not discernible to us on this plane of existence, because we are the expression of the same identity. And that identity scales every person all the way through ultimate reality. Therefore, the closer we are to our fellow humans by the bonds of freedom and love and wisdom, the closer we are to God, this universal identity of whom we are secondary images. And the closer we are to God, the more we will love our fellow man. In the words of the Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky, one can gain faith by the experience of active love. Try to love your neighbors actively and tirelessly. The more you succeed in loving, the more you'll be convinced of the existence of God and the immortality of your soul. And if you reach complete selflessness in the love of your neighbor, then undoubtedly you will believe, and no doubt will even be able to enter your soul. This has been tested. It is certain. When you victimize or brutalize someone, you are brutalizing another one of yourselves. People don't really grasp what it means that this is a fallen world. Right now, you are killing someone and you are being killed. You are raping and violating someone and being raped and violated. You are the prisoner and the captor. All of the violence, war, poverty, inequality, ecological breakdown, crime, sickness, addiction, you're experiencing all of it, and you are the perpetrator of all of it. You're responsible not only for yourself, but for everyone else, a representative for all humanity before God. In the words of author Charles Eisenstein, the jailers yearn for liberation. The wealthy seek relief from their poverty. The powerful cry for deliverance from their helplessness. The comfortable sabotage their orderly arrangements. The warlike and violent pray secretly for their fear to lift. Clearly, our ethics and morality go beyond mere legal convention or practical considerations, such as the proper functioning of the state, but are an end in themselves and an expression of our duties to our fellow man and to God. Chris Langan says the CTMU is the only framework in which the concept of natural law can be justified. Morality comes from nature, which endows everything with a teleological purpose or function. The realization of this purpose or function is good. Essentially, in the CTMU, the laws and states of the universe emerge in coupling with the intentionality of the global operator descriptor, GOD. The order that is good is extracted out of primordial chaos through this recursive cross-definition. Therefore, because reality has its own proto-will to make more of existence, to identify with the true and good order created from within the universe, it benefits from positive experience, pleasure, meaning, fulfillment, etc. of its human tellers. Because the way God experiences the world is not as an undifferentiated block, but through the eyes and ears of his sensor controllers slash secondary tellers. We can align ourselves with the natural law through teleologic living, which we'll lay out on our channel, maximizing the utility of our levels of stratified identity, doing well by our family, our race, our community, our country, and ultimately humanity and ultimate reality itself. Chris Langan says we realize natural law by doing that for which nature has suited us and maximizing our own stratified individual and collective identities. So that is the purpose of our incarnation, that we can figure out how to work with ultimate reality to renew and fortify its identity. In the CTMU, theosis, becoming one with God, and individuation, taking charge of our destiny and separating ourselves from mass man, become a single universal imperative to teleological self-actualization. We can configure our destiny, which is a coupling of our own nature and nature in general. We can therefore configure a set of moral absolutes sufficiently generative to account for the complexities of human life in each of our individual destinies and identities, while sufficiently constrained so as not to devolve into absolute moral relativism. So, what is the remedy to the fallen world? Love, and it has to be. Clearly, the primary imperative is love because this is the impulse to unity, love of our fellow man, love for the Creator. This is affirmed by the famous Golden Rule, most famously expressed in the Bible. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or in its passive form, do not do unto others as you would have them refrain from doing unto you. Or, even more succinctly, love your neighbor as yourself. And generalized to ultimate reality, God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. Natural law contrasts with legal positivism, which says that moral laws are good because they stop society from collapsing. Jefferson and Langan positively refute legal positivism for the simple reason that why would you want a government that's evil and corrupt not to collapse? Jefferson writes in the Declaration of Independence, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people, and in fact the duty of the people, to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Further rules which we can derive would include those which are more likely and most likely to lead to positive experience for other human tellers, safety, happiness, meaning, pleasure, fulfillment, etc., as opposed to cruelty and the amplification of harm to others, without egregious violations of their individual freedom and autonomy, which are positive ends in themselves. Self-control is also important because if you're not able to control your own behavior and think critically about whether something is moral, then you will never be able to actualize moral behavior. Our stratified identity connects what we want to do in this particular moment, some impulse which has been bound on the cognitive level of emergence, with the wisdom and will of God. The most essential part of us is our soul. It's what connects us by this mu-morphic grammar in the CTMU as a secondary image of God to our Creator. Chris Langan writes, for want of a better name, we can use the term soul to describe the channel through which the individual and global utility functions are put in consistent mutual contact. This channel permits the sensors to make more informed, more global, and more valid judgments about what is good and what is bad, and gives them the internal strength to do what is good, even if it means sacrificing individual utility. And because global utility is an aggregate function of individual utility, serving global utility ultimately makes individuals happier. We have an innate instinct for what is good. And combined with CTMU metacognition and an understanding of natural law, Chris Langan says that if you actualize yourself in a way consistent with these absolutes, then society will be a wonderful place to live, even though at times we may stray from perfection. Remember, if you're a Christian, then your imperative is perfection. That through your life and destiny, the coupling of your individual identity with God Almighty, others will be able to see the light of the Father. Matthew 5:48. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. You can go to megafoundation.substack.com to subscribe to the Mega Foundation's teleologic newsletter. That's Chris and his wife, Dr. Gina Langan's organization. And chrislangan.substack.com to subscribe to Chris Langan's Ultimate Reality. That is the most important thing you can do right now, this minute, for the CTMU movement. Both will, as always, be linked in the description. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. The peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.